episode of Living in McKenzie County. Excited today we're going to be talking about McKenzie County, but most specifically the community of Alexander. And so I've got some cool guests to talk about that with me. I think we'll have a good discussion. Before we get started on today's discussion, I just wanted to remind our listeners about our community orientation event. So Living in McKenzie County is not only a podcast. We also have a magazine called Living in McKenzie County. And then we have a community orientation that happens every other month. And so just go to livinginmckenzie.com to find out more information about that. So for today's episode, we're excited. We've got Jim Jacobson, who's a farmer, rancher, resident of the community. We've got Leslie Bieber, Superintendent of Alexander Public Schools. Tyler Fixen, I'm going to call you City Council and other duties as assigned. Is that fair enough?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Okay, yeah. Excellent. And he's also one of my bosses because he serves on our Job Development Authority Board here in McKenzie County. So I will do my best to... So, Jim, tell me a little bit about you. Who is Jim Jacobson?
Well, I was born and raised in the Alexander community a long time ago, by the way. And I graduated from Alexander High School in 1963. Spent 4 years in college in Iowa, 4 years in the Navy after that. And then I came back, my wife and I came back and we ranched and farmed in the community until 1999. At that time, I went into crop insurance until I retired, sort of retired. We're still raising cows now, but
Ranchers never retired.
No, it don't seem like it.
Okay, so you said you went to high school there, and there's a museum there. Is that what building? Is that the building you went to?
Yeah, the building that I went to school in is now the museum. Yeah, and at one time there was an additional building called the Rawson Building, and that was a grade school, and Rawson was moved to the east side of the old school, and that's where the high school was, and that's where I went to high school. The school got big enough that they didn't have enough room, so they brought in this other building. We had 3 stories there.
How many students were in your class?
19.
19. That's a nice number.
When I was in 3rd grade, we had 30.
Oh, really?
But then quite a few people moved away during different periods of time, and we ended up with 19.
What, did you have extracurricular activities?
Oh, yeah. I played football, basketball, ran track. I was in the band. We had plays. We did, a little bit of everything.
Wow.
I mean, everybody had a chance. Small school, so if you want to, you got a chance. So most everybody participated in more than one thing.
Uh-huh. Okay, so how did you end up in Alexander? I mean, how did your family find McKenzie County?
Well, my granddad and grandma homesteaded in 1905, just south, 2 miles south and 3 miles east of Alexander. And our family has been there ever since. They lived on the homestead, and then they moved into Alexander about 1911. And my grandpa still kept the farm, but he was a McCormick Deering, sold McCormick Deering farm machinery. And then, of course, it went into International Harvester. My dad quit school, went on the threshing crew after 8th grade, and the football coach came out and asked him if he would please come back to school and play football. And he did.
Okay.
And he ended up playing football for Montana State.
Oh,
wow,
impressive.
so athleticism is running your family for
So
generations.
anyway, my dad got his college education and everything, so that was good. And then my dad was also county agent in Golden Valley County for a few years before he came back, and then he farmed the rest of his life. Dad was in the legislature for about 20 years, House of Representatives and in the Senate both. And my mother taught school forever, and then she was our organist at church. And so really we're involved in a lot of things in the community.
Definitely. So 1905, I'm pretty sure that's the year McKenzie County was founded. So you guys have been county residents since the beginning, your family.
Yeah.
Impressive.
Same year Alexander became Alexander.
Interesting. Wow. And there were no bridges to get into McKenzie County in 1905.
No, they took the ferry across. My grandparents came from Lake Park, Minnesota. And they took the train to Williston. And then you crossed on the ferry. If you had a team of horses and a wagon, that went on the ferry. And normally, because of the travel time, the Panger Rest Area was called, up where the way station is now. People would stop and stay there overnight on their trek to Williston or back from Williston. And then
2-day trip to Williston
two-day
from Alexander.
trip was normal. Yeah, absolutely.
How long does it take you to get to Alexander, Tyler?
It takes me, to the bridge is 18 minutes. A little quicker nowadays.
Wow.
Thankful for the bridges. Cool. All right. So, I will come back to you, Jim. This is very interesting. I love this history. It's just fun to hear these things, and I just can't imagine what it was like. I mean, that's why we were called the Island Empire, McKenzie County, because we've got rivers in the Badlands surrounding our counties, so it was difficult to get here. But Leslie, tell me a little bit about you.
I grew up in Sydney, Montana, so I'm not too far from home. My parents and my siblings still reside, so I'm thankful to be close enough to family. I actually, I'm a mother of 3 and a grandma of 4 with 5 on the way.
Really?
In 2 weeks. Yes. So.
Oh, wow.
All under 3. So keeps me busy.
I bet.
It's enjoyable. Should be grandparents first. Would you agree, Jim? New dad. I'm sorry.
Yeah, new guy there. Yeah.
I've been in education for 26 years. I taught in Alexander for 9 years. I was an ITV instructor.
Okay.
So I taught Spanish to Alexander and across northwestern North Dakota and into Montana. And now I've been the superintendent there for 12 years. So it was like coming home in a way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you seen any changes in those past 12 years?
Yes, there were 129 kids when I first started, and we're at 332.
Are you serious?
Yes. So they used to say that for a superintendent's career, you usually had one construction project. And I've been in construction for 12 years. So with our latest project completion in October of 2025.
Awesome.
So.
Okay, what are those projects that you guys?
The first thing was homes. We needed to put in some teacher homes. The district had 4 of them when I arrived, but of course we were amidst the boom, and with a teacher salary, it would have taken their entire monthly check if they wouldn't have resided in Alexander. So Alexander now has 14 homes for teachers and staff. So that was my first project. Then we moved on to our first major project that was completed in 2017, and we doubled the size of the existing building from the 1965. So we added elementary and high school wings, a second gym, which has been a blessing with all the new programs, and just kind of really updated some of our facilities, except for the mechanical and plumbing of the existing. We did some of the rooms, but not all of them. And so we opened that up in 2017. And I remember when, during Old Settlers Day, I always open up the school to allow people to come back and see the changes. And in those tours, I heard comments, "You're never going to fill this. You're never going to fill this space." And so here we are. We broke ground last year, and we are adding 10 classrooms and additional office space. So we'll be a second floor. We'll have a second story. So that'll be new. The unfortunate part is it takes that beautiful view away from the field and the granaries. Is that what's there? Yes. That makes Alexander pretty infamous. But
Sure.
but it will be a beautiful school, and we'll be able to really separate our grade levels
Okay.
so that our elementary, our middle school will go upstairs, and then our high school. So we'll really have 3 separate wings. And a 17-year-old child is very different from a 12-year-old coming into middle school. So it'll be healthy.
Good. Good to hear. So tell me more about Alexander Public Schools. So the growth has obviously creates more opportunities.
Right.
But there's also challenges, I'm sure, from a superintendent perspective. Just kind of, can you tell me a little bit, any unique things that you have going over at Alexander
Yes.
Public?
First, though, I need to really double back because we also built a VOAG building.
Oh, sure.
And I do not want to leave
Yes.
that out because that's been great for our CTE.
Good.
And supporting the workforce
Yep.
of the areas around us. And football. We built a football field. It used to be, it was a sand golf course. I'm going to
Correct.
look to these guys.
Five-hole sand. golf.
5-hole
Sand
golf-
green golf course.
Sand green golf
Yeah.
course, right?
Yeah, that was our,
So I took away their entertainment. We started with 6-man and moved to 9-man, but I know that topic is potentially coming up. So that's all the projects that we've had over the 12 years. And as far as growth, it's really been, I would say, the majority of our time and the majority of our dollars of our budget goes into quality personnel. And we're very blessed that we've been able to sustain that. I've only had 1 year where we have not had the teachers completely full, our teaching staff full. And we were able to, and that was just a teacher who quit 1 week before school. So there was really nothing we could do to help that out.
Yeah.
And it was actually truly a blessing because my 2 principals and myself, the classes that we weren't able to fill landed directly on our license.
Okay.
So math, science, and I was able to teach social studies then. I was a Spanish teacher as well, but I'm also certified in social studies. So for the first time in my life, I taught 6th graders last year, and it was wonderful. But really the personnel, maintaining personnel, and honestly, the blessing of that is if I can get people into our building. So if they come in as an aide or a sub, they're very interested. They see, oh, this is what's really going on within these walls. Kids give you a purpose, a reason to get out of bed and go to work. And although there's challenges, there's thousands more joys than there are challenges.
Yeah.
So actually, I'm just going to say a new sub this year that started, who has been a mother of our children for, I don't know, I want to say the last 8 years. I just spoke to her yesterday, and she said, yeah, actually, I think I am going to go back to school and earn my teaching credentials. So
Impressive.
I just need to get them into the building or
Nice.
coaching.
coaching.
Yep. and then they just want to be in there, but it is a drive. It's a pull.
Tyler,
to be
other
in.
duties as assigned.
Yeah, they're starting that up. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, and 4-day school week?
We are a 4-day school week.
What does that mean?
So it actually started we hold a class for our kids. It's changed over the years, but kind of an innovation course where they go in and they more or less create their own topics, explore their own topics. And a group of students came up with starting exploring a 4-day school week, which is very common in Montana. And in
Okay.
Montana, it's a school board can make that decision and it's a go. Whereas in North Dakota, you have to go through the Department of Public Instruction. And so the student group, pitched it to me, and I said, I need some more information. But they really worked hard at it. So then they involved the principals, and then we pitched it to our board. And being between Watford City and Williston, who collectively sometimes hire over 50 to 60 teachers between the two of them, when I need 2 or 3, it's a battle. And so it made us just a little unique. So the board obviously just didn't make the motion. We went out, surveyed all of our community, our students, Funny enough, it was my high school kids who were the most reluctant in the beginning. They were afraid they'd be bored on Fridays. But with having everybody involved, parents, students, staff, we looked at our problems. So what are some issues that maybe we can use a 4-day school week to have? So we have a Friday intervention time, and that's from 9 to noon every day, or every Friday, excuse me, where you get small group or one-to-one with teachers, with certified teachers. And then we didn't want to cause any financial issues for families who may have to find daycare. So we run a High Five program, that's what it's called, which is kind of an after-school program. And that's from 9 to 3, and that's run by our teacher aides. So that allows them to get their 40 hours in. We transport, we feed, breakfast and lunch. And so those are really 2 great programs that have come out of that. And then on Fridays, other things just started it is not uncommon for us to have 50 to 100 kids, and when we only have 332 total, in the building on a Friday between extracurriculars. I know our first tech challenge was just our high school robotics team takes that opportunity and meets. Our first Lego League, which is our elementary robotics team, meets on that Friday. A lot of our different clubs we have Dungeons and Dragons. You want a club and you're going to participate and belong to somebody, I'll bring it on. We'll do it. I just want the kids to belong. So, and not to mention our volleyball and our basketball, they take opportunities to maybe hold longer practices or open gyms.
Yeah. And so I've heard a little bit about I've heard just kind of from a state perspective, Alexander is known for the robotics. Can you just tell me a little bit about what that means? So you start them in elementary school?
Kathy White, she started when I started. I hired her as a preschool teacher. And she, in Arizona, was a first Lego League coach. So she brought that in. We start the robotics class in preschool just non-device. So they don't have to do it with the device. They have different, but otherwise it's a course that they have every week from preschool all the way to 12th grade. And then in the high school, you're required in the 9th grade to take a computer science course, whether it's robotics but something for credit. But you have the opportunity to go all the way up to the 12th grade. And we have a program called TEALS that Microsoft actually brings their computer engineers in, and they actually teach it. So anyway, it's some great programs. But our first Tech Challenge team have made it to the Worlds. Unfortunately, that was in the spring of 2020. Therefore, they never made it to it.
Not a good year.
But it is not. It is actually uncommon if our team does not make it to state. So we've got some great supporters from around the community that donate dollars to help the team out. They've been to Washington, D.C. a few times to really be advocates for STEM education and financing for it. So Coach Kathy White and now Tanya Vigil, they do a great job in keeping our kids involved. But then FLL, First Lego League, is kind of the first step, and that goes from 4th grade to 8th grade. And then once they get into the high school, then they go into the First Tech Challenge, which is the bigger robots.
So you kind of have a feeder program.
Right.
And you get them hooked when they're young.
Yes, that's our goal.
Good. All right. Well, I'm sure we'll come back, but I want to get over to other duties as assigned. Tyler. Who is Tyler Fixen?
I was born and raised in Alexander. When Leslie said there was 129 students, you said?
Yes.
I was one of those 129, and I bailed on that number. I came over to Watford. We were playing all of our sports here, so I actually graduated from Watford City in 2008. Spent some college years away from out here in Western North Dakota. I was in Minot for a couple of years, Grand Forks for a few years, and then moved back in 2015. Now I'm a father of 2. My stepdaughter is a senior, and I just had one in November, so we're starting over again.
Awesome.
Keeps us in business, Tyler. Keeps us in business.
Like you said, as duties as assigned. I serve on City Council, Alexander Planning and Zoning. I sit on the McKenzie County JDA as well. I'm a member of the Alexander Rural Fire Department. and I've spent the last 15 enjoyable years in the North Dakota National Guard.
Wow. So when Tyler was 10, 12 years old, did he think he'd be living back in Alexander?
I don't know if 10, 12-year-old Tyler thought about living in Alexander. It's my entire family's here. I had an uncle that, when I was younger, he lived in Bozeman, but he moved back probably around them, when I was 10, 12 years old. All my aunts and uncles live in this area. My grandparents were all in this area. I'd probably assume that I'd be living in Alexander and not doing what I'm doing now, but,
Yeah. And so community involvement, it seems like some people are scared to get involved. It doesn't seem like you're scared to get involved. What inspires you to be a part of the fire department, city council, all of those things?
So fire department, it was just something, everyone kind of, I don't say everyone was doing it, so I did it.
Peer
because
pressure?
Yeah, the guy that I was
Whatever
working
it
for
takes.
was Lance Powell was the chief, and I was working for him when I first moved back here.
Okay.
And so I was just around it. My dad did it. My stepdad did it. My grandfather did it. It's just always been something I felt like I didn't know I didn't have a choice not to do it. It was just something you
Well,
always
you don't,
did.
you don't, but
Another one of my assigned duties, I guess,
There
is
you go.
2 years ago I started coaching football. I played for the wonderful Fred Fridley here, and I've always enjoyed the game. So I just hung out one day, and they're like, "Do you want to just kind of stick around and help out permanently?" And I couldn't say no. So I just like giving back to the community. Anywhere I can help. We'll talk about Old Settlers later, but I sit on the. I'm not saying we have a board, but I'm one of the organizers for that too as well. So I just like giving back to the community and doing what I can.
Cool. Okay. City council, what's the time commitment? I mean, like, what does it take to be a city council person in Alexander?
I think you can put as much time into it as you want. I know some people dig into, they know the zoning and all the ordinances by heart. I'm not one of those people, but I do spend extra time. We have our meetings first Wednesday of every month. It usually lasts 2 to 3 hours, which is, some people think we're crazy for sticking around that long and talking more than we do, and we probably have too much discussion on some things. But 2 to 3 hours every first Wednesday of every month. Special meetings, that pop up. We probably have 3 or 4 of them a year. And, I actually do spend some time outside of the meetings and, researching some things. And, before the meeting happens, I'm probably a couple hours the Wednesday of the meeting. I spend looking at the agenda and getting my ducks in a row, so I don't, it makes it seem like I know what I'm talking about. So,
Well, and probably each meeting is kind of different. Sometimes there might not be a ton on the agenda, and sometimes it might get kind of big.
correct, yeah. Right now we're talking about expanding Alexander with some new lots. So yeah, we're spending a little more time talking about covenances and what we'll allow and not allow in the city. We've had some major projects recently that have come up, and some meetings, definitely. Winter months, we kind of push those off to not as long, but they can get long too. So,
Okay, so you've been talking about these city lots. Tell me a little bit more. What's the reason behind this?
So I can't tell you when the city's had it for the land for quite a while. There was a man camp there. I'm going to call it a man camp. There's some FEMA trailers, kind of in the southwest portion of town. And over the, since when the boom kind of died down a little bit, they started taking them out. And we had 6 left, and finally, kind of really when I got on council, it was we should do something to this land. And Alexander, inside of city limits, hasn't grown a whole lot like your Watford cities and your Willistons, and even your Rays and your Tiogas. A couple smaller towns. So it was, well, what can we do? And so we got to looking, and it's like, well, why don't we develop it and make lots out of it and sell houses. So the last few years we have been, going through all them works. Last fall we actually did all the dirt work for it. So everything's to grade right now. This year we plan on doing sewer and water, and then we'll be ready to sell lots. And then hopefully next year we'll pave the streets there, and it'll be a nice little development and community up there.
So another big thing that the city's been working on is building a daycare building. What projected this summer it's going to open?
Yeah, so construction's supposed to be done July 1st, I believe. I could be wrong on that, but this summer sometime construction's supposed to be done. And I just learned this at our last meeting is there's some hoops that a daycare has to jump through once the construction to actually occupy the building. It's not like construction done and you can occupy it. Someone was saying there's a 30-day window, a 60-day window, and a 90-day window in order to open up a daycare. I don't know. I'm not involved with any of that. There's a separate daycare committee that runs that. But yeah, we're looking at, I think with how they arranged, right around 70 kids will be able to be in the daycare, which if anyone knows this area, and I mean, really probably everywhere in this country, is daycare's tough to find. And so we looked at that as what can we do? And part of this development that the city bought years ago, we're like, well, let's put a daycare here. Which I have to thank the McKenzie County commissioners on that, because they were the ones that are funding the project, because they know that it'll help alleviate maybe Wolf Pup or whatever other home daycares are, in Watford City. And I think Nikki Holen, who runs the small daycare in Alexander right now, has 17 kids. Do you know that number?
I do not.
Somewhere around the 17 number.
Like that.
I know
And there's always been
A waiting list that's double.
Waiting
double
list.
that. Yeah, I think right now, I think I just heard last year is like 28, was on the waiting list. So it's like, all right, so what do we have to do to, get this daycare built? So come up with a plan, and
So the city will own the building?
the city will own the building. Yep. And we actually, last meeting, we actually awarded the contract to Nikki Holen. So she was our only person that put in a plan for it. So we awarded
But she's the one that's been doing it in daycare.
correct.
in
Yep.
Alexander.
Yep. And it's she runs it out of a old double wide that's in town. So she'll be the one that'll be moved in. We were hoping by time of school start, but it's looking maybe like September for the actual opening. So
Okay. But yeah, that'll be exciting.
yeah, and
Does
Leslie
that-
might be able to talk more of daycare and how they actually have a daycare that the school runs.
Right.
So she might be able to talk a little more about the benefits of what this daycare could do for us.
Staff at the school.
Yeah.
100%, yes. And having the lots will allow, my board's been talking about not wanting to be landlords for quite a while.
Yeah, it's not really your primary mission.
No, it
Educating
is.
students, it's not.
Right. But it's definitely was a necessity, and still plays a role in keeping our staff in town. And so all of those are really going to help out. We'll continue with the daycare at the school until they open up their doors, and Nikki can take on more students. So.
Yeah. So we've alluded to football a little bit, but Jim, so you say that you grew up playing it there, and then obviously rural depopulation of pretty much all of North Dakota, 80s, 90s, leads to smaller school enrollments, less opportunities. That had to stop, but you guys were able to bring it back. Can you tell me a little bit about that story there?
Well, I think it was 1989 was our last football year, 88 or 89.
88. I
88.
think Todd graduated in 88.
Okay, 88. My second son, so both my boys got to play in Alexander. We didn't have enough kids, so we were going to Watford. And that went on until 6 years ago. Is it?
2014.
Yeah, also
In the
it's
spring of
10 years
2015. Sorry, in the
50.
spring of 15.
Yeah.
McKenzie 1 had to make the decision because it would have pushed them to Class A.
Yeah.
So they decided to release their co-ops, which would allow them to stay in Class B for another year, just more prep. So, which was at the same time we were gearing up. So we started in the fall of 2015 is when we brought our football back. And I'm just going to tell a quick story about Jim in our first football game. It was our 90 seconds of fame because NBC Nightly News from New York came and did a story.
Oh,
And so we had 90 seconds across the nation of small town able to bring back football after 27 years. And that I have a lot of great memories from. But my favorite memory from all of it is I was blessed to be standing on the field, and Raymond Marachek and Jim Jacobson were standing next to one another, talking about the last time they were playing on the field. And I remember it was an emotional conversation. Kind of makes me a little emotional to think about it. But it was bringing back the community back together to rally around the boys, the football program. And at the same time, we were bringing volleyball back and then basketball. So it was just a great bringing everyone in. And of course, we do it over Old Settlers Days and that so people can come who are already planning to come and watch the program build. So it's a great memory of hearing the two gentlemen talk about their last game on the field. And there were tears involved and lots of great chuckles as they were watching those new boys out there. Comets revived.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been kind of one of those deals. When I played, back when my cousins played, they played 6-man. And then it evolved to 8-man, and my freshman year was the last year of 8-man. And then we went to 9-man. So 9-man football stayed until 1988 when we just basically ran out of kids. And then in 2017, you said?
2015.
15, when my second to youngest grandson was a freshman, they started 6-man football just so we could get started because kids had not played, not very many had played in Watford. After we had early on, quite a few went over, but it diminished as time went. And so they started with 6-man, and we did that for 4 years, I think.
I think you're right. Yep.
And then we went to 9-man because our numbers in the junior high and the lower high school numbers had increased to the point where we could. And since then, we have been very competitive the last few years now. It started out rough, but and it's kind of nice. I have a grandson that's a head coach. He played football for Watford for 4 years over here, graduated from Watford. But yeah, it's been a fun run. And our grades, the numbers in our grades are, we're going to have lots of football for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's been, once we got the program rolling, it's been very successful. So it's been quite a run.
I mean, it just maybe adds another dimension to the town when you got this
it does.
kind of Friday night activity or summer.
When we redid the field from 6-man to 9 field, then we were able to put lights on. So we went from Saturday afternoon games to Friday night lights.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
And it draws
the
the crowds.
crowds are tremendous. I mean, people really come out. So it's been a plus for the community. And one thing, with all the new people that have moved in, we're getting more of those kids involved. And so their parents are coming. And so the numbers that come, I go to games, there's a lot of them, I don't have a clue who they are. And of course, I'm not at school all the time, so that's one of those things. But it's really good to see.
I think one thing too with the success of our varsity program is you see it in our elementary. Third and fourth, or first and second grade are together, and third and fourth are together, and they actually play in a league up in Williston. They play flag football up in Williston. My nephew's a third grader, and they lost one game the last 2 years, So I mean, and there's a bunch of kids out. So, looking forward to when we, they're like, oh, maybe it'll die off. Well, no, we have, I think his team maybe had 20 kids in between the two grades, and they are so passionate about the game. Friday nights, just our practice field is right next to our game day fields, and they're out. There's kids running around everywhere playing football, and I have to yell at some of my junior high kids, "Don't get hurt playing over there. We got our own games to play with." So, so bringing football back, and then the success that we've had the last few years at the varsity level has definitely sparked interest. All the way down to, you can see it in the elementary end too. So,
yeah. And I think one other thing that's really helped, our staff is young, and they're all local people who, grew up in Alec, basically. There's not very many of them that haven't. And the younger ones seem to get a little more out of the kids than some of the older coaches, but especially when you're developing a program.
Yep.
And so it's good that we're having people volunteer, and it makes Leslie's job a lot easier.
Yes, it does. Amen to that. Well, and I'm going to tell you, at a junior high game, I think it was one of our last home games, the football, because the practice field is right next to it, our varsity boys took their helmets off, sat there in the heat, and cheered on our junior high boys. And it meant so much to them to have them stay for the last quarter after they were done with practice and just really cheer them on. I can't remember who we were playing. Maybe you do, but we ended up winning in the end, but it was a close game. So
Fantastic. But all this takes volunteers, I mean, and coaches and everything. How does this work, especially when it's a lot of growth in the community? Have you found any secrets to success for volunteers, or is it,
I think sometimes, especially when it's a small community, it can seem hard to try and fit in, especially when you're first starting. But the more Alexander is the opposite of that, in my opinion. Whether Tyler would have been there from Alexander or not, he hung out at the field a few times, and pretty soon it was, hey, do you want to come in and utilize skills? Utilize the talents of who we have. With the Alexander Activities Club is very active. They have a great Christmas stroll, and it amazes me how much it grows every year. Just a concept that started 4 women putting it together. Our Alexander's Foundation, our Alexander School Foundation Committee, they put on the foundation. It started as a ball, as a dress-up, kind of a formal ball, and now it's gone from, they have pinnacle tournaments,
Cornhole. This year we're doing a
I think
dart
they're going to do
tournament.
darts, and that continues to grow all the time. Once, I'm going to say it again, and if I can get those adults in the door, if they want to come in, whether it's activities, if it's just watching the games, making them feel welcome, and that's the key, is making them feel welcome and knowing that no matter if you are the head coach, a volunteer, or just helping with the concessions, all of it makes it work. No matter role you play, we all make it work. So that's really the key.
Yeah.
Yeah. And kids give you a purpose.
And we get the community that we put into it. I mean, if people are looking for change, it's like, well, what can you do? And it sounds like, okay, I'll help coach, or I'll be involved in different things. Talk about the Old Settlers Day. I mean, what's the history of Old Settlers Day? What is it today? All of that.
Well, Old Settlers Day started in 1948.
Wow.
A rancher southwest of Alexander by the name of Lemuel Burns called some of the local businessmen and said, hey, if you put together a day in the fall when harvest is over, I will donate a beef and we'll have a big barbecue, is basically how it got done. It was after World War II, and everybody was kind of coming back home, and they all felt that this was quite a way to go. And obviously it has, because it's still going to this day.
Wow.
Just a little sidelight. My grandpa Jacobson and his wife Hilda donated in 1951. My mom and dad donated in 1985. My wife's parents in 1986. And my wife and I did in 2018. So we've had 3 generations that have donated beef for the Old Settlers.
Awesome.
Which is kind of neat.
That's impressive.
And we have a list. We have a committee that runs it, and we have a list of people and go off that list. We juggle that list some with health reasons and other kind of reasons. But it's all volunteer help. And we're getting some of the new people now are helping. And I know Tyler can say more about this on the fire department. There's quite a few new people that are helping now in our fire department. And
Yeah.
those are the kind of things, starts at school most of the time, because that's where their kids go first. And then we can incorporate them into community projects like our fire department and old settlers and things like that.
Yeah, I definitely think you were right on that. It starts in the school, and then I get talking to you, and oh, hey, want to join the fire department? We need some guys, and it snowballs from there. Yeah, and I think our fire department, if you call them, people that didn't grow up here, it probably outnumbers the people that did on the department. Like Jim was talking about, old settlers it's I don't know if it's growing, but it seems like it is every year. I don't know if we get to max participation. I was reading a news article from one of the mid 60s or 70s, and they had like 4,000 people, somewhere in there. So yeah, it was a big event. Our numbers have dwindled off, but we still feel like we put on a good thing. We have a street band, and we raise money every year, go to local businesses, and that's really who the big thing is. The support that we get from the community when it comes financially for us being able to put this on. We have donors from Watford City, Williston, and Alexander.
Because when I was a kid, the button cost $2.
Still $2
And
to
it's
this
still-
day.
Inflation
Has not topped that. Yeah,
Well, I'll have to tell you a story though. When it went from $1 to $2, oh my word! Because I was a chairman of the button sales, and on Old Settlers Day, there was lots of grumbling going on.
I believe it.
Oh,
and
man.
now we do so well when it comes to our donations that we've hinted at the idea of we just hand buttons out. We don't even charge for them anymore because before it was help to pay for things. Now we get great donations. And the oils definitely help that of how people are lending out money. And so we've hinted at the idea of not even charging anymore, just because we do so well when it comes to donations and participation and everything. So.
Yep. So I'm just trying to think from our listeners' perspective. There might be some people who aren't aware what Old Settlers Day is, but this is Labor Day weekend.
Yeah,
every
I
year?
can talk.
Go for
Kind of
that.
our events. It's Labor Day weekend. Starts on Thursday night. Normally we try to have a volleyball game. Kind of that bring people in that might they can come to a volleyball game. Thursday night we have a bonfire that goes all night long. Not saying you need to stay there all night long, but it does go all night long. Friday morning we wake up and that's when we process the beef. The family, it used to be you'd take a cow and actually butcher it. But now it's a lot more financially we normally go through like U.S. Food Services or something like that, and we get a bunch of meat. Last year we did 800 pounds of meat. So Friday morning starts with we start processing that, cutting it up, getting it into seasoning it, and then it goes into some gunny sacks. And then around 5 o'clock Friday evening, it goes into the pit. Then the coals are put back on top. It cooks all night long. Friday night, normally we have a football game, street dance. That wraps up Fridays. Oh, we did someone that isn't local to Alexander, they moved in. They take care of the soapbox derby. We have that Friday and a chili cook-off. Chili cook-off. Yeah, that's Friday as we welcome anybody to come. Not saying the football team's 3 times winners, but 3-time defending champions. So anyone wants to come to Alexander and do the chili cook-off,
coaches,
we're
yeah.
more than welcome to
I think
have
they
you.
bribe.
I just heard that the other day from my grandson.
Yep. Then Saturday morning, we have a parade, dig up the meat, have a barbecue. There's vendors. One of our volunteers that helps put this on gets vendors to have a little craft show, and people sell food and canned goods. It's kind of at the end of the year. And there's usually a program. The family put on a program. They kind of just talk about the history of the program. Then after the parade, the barbecue starts around noon, 1 o'clock, followed by, normally we do a cornhole tournament. They've also been doing Redneck Olympics, where they do some mud volleyball, and there's some basketball, 3-point shooting basketball.
Horseshoes?
Horseshoes, yep, horseshoes. One year they went out in the country and they did some shooting. So Saturday night concludes with another street dance. I don't know if you have anything else to add for that.
Oh, pretty much it.
Yeah, it seems like there's always something going on. I know one year or a couple years they did a wagon train. They started out at the Highstead Ranch one year, and Friday morning they rode their wagons into town, and there was quite a few. I don't know how many there was, but there was quite a few of them. I know they started from down by Sather's Dam too, and come up doing a wagon train.
The Activities Club runs the burger booth.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
delicious burgers and a pie booth all day on Saturday. So, yeah.
And so
Good
that's
food.
on Labor Day weekend during
Yep.
Old Settlers Day. Okay, but then there's also the Lions burgers in the park. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, the Lionsburg and the Park they start on Memorial Day weekend, and they run up till Labor Day.
Wow.
And it's every Saturday night.
Yeah.
And Lions Club serves burgers. It's been for, oh man, I don't know how many years. It's got to be 40 years or better.
So, I mean, the concept is pretty simple. I mean, you're selling burgers and neighbors and friends come out.
Oh, yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yep. Yeah. And people from Arnegard and Cartwright and Williston and Watford will come over. And
Yeah.
it's just a good time where you can sit under the pavilion and visit,
Yep.
or just visit up to the neighbor next to you eating a burger. And
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just a really good time.
Seems like you always run into someone you haven't seen for a while.
Yeah.
No matter where they're from, you just
Yeah.
oh hey, there's so and so, and go up and have a conversation with them. Yeah, it's just another thing that brings the community together. So
Yeah, it doesn't have to be complicated.
no, yeah, just cook
No.
some burgers and
No, it's
Kids in the park.
yeah, kids.
kids playing in the park.
Yeah,
That's a big deal.
there's been a lot. You've seen it over the last few years. The number of kids running around the park on Saturdays. I remember being when I was little. It was stay there till dark, and you were playing football or whatever, wiffle ball. But yeah, you can start seeing more and more kids coming around and them nights and being in the park and playing, which is great to see. They're not indoors on their electronics.
Yeah. I mean, what an asset to the community your park is. I mean, it's always green, always beautiful, well kept and everything. I mean, and then to be able to have these different events there, I mean, I think it just really creates that cool third place for people to meet.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's another place where the new people moving in, if they come down, gives them a chance to meet people. And of course, a lot of these people have got young kids. And what a good place for them to meet other people who have moved here. And it just brings more people to the community to do things together.
And I mean, it's a pretty low pressure. It's
Yeah.
not super intense. It's not like
No,
going over to somebody's house for the first time and sitting down at their table and say, "Tell me." I mean,
Yeah.
it's a pretty
Yeah, it's one of those things
Basic.
where you see them the first time you might wave, second time you say hi, and the third time you're having a full conversation with them, right?
excellent.
And then they're lifelong friends. So
Excellent.
yeah, that's definitely happened. So
And the park was one of the biggest items there, or areas that I noticed before and after the bypass was built.
Oh, okay.
The park there was no kids there before the bypass when we had.
Okay, yeah.
the
So
traffic going
let's
through.
that's a good point. Let's back up a little bit. Okay, so the Bakken oil boom is what you're talking about because Highway 85 went through right the middle of town,
Right,
and so there was thousands of vehicles on not Main Street, Elk Street, I guess.
right.
And so then so tell me a little bit more about like life during the boom times.
Well, it just went from the Alexander that it is now, where the park was the hangout. Kids were riding their bikes all over. It's a safe place. We used to tease because it would take, at the time, our maintenance director 45 minutes to go get the mail. And we wondered, is he sleeping? Is he taking it? No, he just couldn't get across the street. Literally. So it would take him 45 minutes to an hour to go across the street to retrieve the mail and come back to the school. And once the bypass was built, it was what I really noticed was there's kids playing outside again, because you can hear it throughout the town. You can hear them,
Yeah.
and it took a while for parents to finally start releasing them. Okay, yep, let's go down to the park. This is safe now, and we don't have the traffic. I mean, it went from over 10 to 15,000 vehicles a day to so a little bit of a ghost feel, and then the kids started coming out again. And yeah, beautiful sound. Beautiful sound.
Yeah, the highway department said the average is about 17,000 a day through Alexander with the height of the boom.
Yes.
So you can about imagine.
I always made the joke, to take a left, you had to take a right
Yeah.
and then somehow get across and then come back and then take another right, just to go the direction you wanted to go. You couldn't
Yeah.
turn left and get across the street. So.
Did you guys shut down the street for Old Settlers Day during that? Do you remember that?
I don't remember that. That's there were some of the years from 8 to
We did.
Yeah, I
you
was
did?
going to say, I don't
We
remember
actually
where
did.
it was never.
And the state was not very happy with us. And we ended up, for 2 years, we did not use Main Street for our parade or anything. Our back street on the east side of the park is where everything was held.
Okay.
And our numbers went down during the boom for Old Settlers simply because it's so hard to get any place.
Yeah.
Right.
And when the bypass came, it was back to normal again. And yeah, they might call Alexander a sleepy little town. It's sure kind of nice it is
Well, no,
compared to what it was at that time.
Yep. No, 4 or 5 years ago, we had a reporter from France who came, and I think they flew into Williston and then drove through Alexander, and he was, and he went through Alexander. I think just intentionally, he wanted to see what it was, and he's like, "This looks like the scene out of a Western movie," and just loved that small town look that you guys have there with the park and the historic buildings and everything. Yeah. And I was like, boy, I never thought about it that way, but sometimes it takes somebody from outside your community to kind of come in and it's like, okay, we've got some cool things going here. I mean, and especially just these Saturday nights at the park, burgers in the park or your other annual events, Friday night lights, different things like that. Alexander is there's some cool stuff going on you guys have there.
Absolutely. And like you said, it's still small town, right? I mean, some of these other towns have exploded. Watford City growing up, what was it, 1,200 people? And now where are we at? Williston was 12,000 and now they're, I don't know, I couldn't even 50,000, I mean, and we're still little Alexander in the middle of it all. Mm-hmm. And it's still.
Definitely been impacted.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. But it's still that small town. You just drive through, and it's nice driving through, seeing the smaller communities that you're used to seeing.
Yep.
I think those lots will be swept up quickly.
Yeah,
as
we've
they
had.
open.
I know. I'm talking with our realtor. We have 4 on the market right now, and she's had some interest right away. Well, it hasn't been a month, and we'll have potentially up to 40 lots. And I sit on a board with 3 other members. But mine is my goal is to keep them lots relatively inexpensive, because that's another issue that everywhere's dealing with is housing, right? It's tough to get a house anymore. So if people are inflating their lots, it's just going to burden them people even more. So I hope that us as a board can keep them fairly inexpensive and be able to get someone into a new home.
Because you used to do open enrollment, is that right? From throughout the community, from out the area.
Right. The board still we accept the applications. Let's say that.
Yeah.
Per state law, they really can't close anything down.
Sure.
They have to take each application as it comes until a class size or building does not allow for the enrollment to increase. Yeah. So it really, as we receive those applications, my school board just takes them and says, okay, we have this many kids in, let's say, kindergarten. There's 23. We only have 1 section. No, we're shutting it down. Mm-hmm. It's only open to district students, so it's based on the class size.
Sure, but I think that there are people that are I mean, maybe they work in one of the cities, but they want a little bit more of a Class B
Right.
atmosphere. So they might be like, I need to live in that district so that my
Yes.
kids can go to that school.
Yes, definitely.
So what advice would you guys give? Say we've got a listener out there maybe moved to the Alexander community in the past year or so and is wondering about how to get involved. I mean, we talked about Burgers in the Park a little bit, but any other ideas, any examples of people that have like, well, yeah, this is my community and I'm going to help become, let it be a better community.
I'm going to start out with the Activities Club, the Alexander Activities Club. The school, I believe, is the largest business in the city.
Yeah.
No. Far and wide, yes. And they do a lot of different activities. And so you meet other parents.
Okay.
Even if you don't have kids, we still have people who participate.
Okay, that's good to know.
Even though they do not have kids in the school.
So you're in the area and you come, and how do you find out about the Activities Association?
The contact is right on our website, on the school's website.
Okay.
The school app, we have a school app, and so if they can, again, whether they have students or not, there's a district, so people, our stakeholders outside of just the parents, know when our games are, when our different activities are, when our Christmas stroll is. Turkey bingo, that's a big one. You don't have to have kids to play turkey bingo. And as well as the foundation. The foundation committee is always looking for assistance with some of the activities they come. And then you just, like Tyler said, it might be a quiet meeting in the beginning, but as you are starting or as you meet somebody, then the conversation starts. And that's how you become involved.
Excellent.
We always want them in our building. So
I was going to say, as far as volunteering, we don't have a whole lot of things to go along with that. But, come out to one of the events, get to know people, and then them opportunities, provide themselves. We do this on the weekends, we have 3 buildings that are churches in town, but I know there's a congregation that I think meets at the fire hall every Sunday. There's another one that another group of people that meet at the city hall every Sunday, and that's another great way to get involved is through church.
Mm-hmm. Great.
the bingo games at now the old 85,
Oh.
we're up to $10,000, right? Until someone I know won. Boy, that would pack the house. And again, and you can allow, because they serve food as well.
Correct.
So you can even bring your kids in and allow the bingo, right? And
Yep.
meet people. So
Yeah, kids are allowed in it's
Until
the
a
old
certain
highway bar right down Main Street. Not advocating anyone to go to the bar, but it's another great place to meet people. New ownership just took over, and I think they have great ideas of what they want to do, and they're just trying some new things with the breakfast. They own a couple of coffee shops in Williston, and I think they want to incorporate that possibly into the bar. There's kind of a little apartment back behind the bar that they'd run a little coffee shop out of. But yeah, there's always someone in there that, again, strike up a conversation, and you never know, you might meet your best friend.
Okay, well, I think when I was talking with you a couple weeks ago, you were like, well, I'll see Jim when I was talking with you about the podcast idea, you're like, I'm going to see Jim at bingo or something.
I know where Jim Jacobson is every Thursday and Friday.
Unless I'm gone.
Unless he's gone, yes, at 6:00. And not only is it Jim, his family enjoys the game, and yes, there are as many people that, I need to see them. Well, it's Thursday, so they'll be at the bar playing bingo. Yeah, the bingo has been something fun that I think everyone can get to. Pinochle, if you know how to play Pinochle, they do have Pinochle on Wednesday nights. I know the Elk Street, right? The main road right there in town is packed on Wednesday nights. People love their bingo. They come as far as 30 miles south just to come up and play. Sorry, not bingo, Pinochle. They travel far and wide for that Pinochle on Wednesday nights, and it's just another event to bring people together.
Yeah, that Pinocchle's brought people out of Williston, out of Watford. There's one carload of ladies out of Watford, 2 La Miss.
Yeah.
So it's been kind of fun because you get to meet some more people that way, and they've been having as high as 8 tables.
Okay.
So that gets to be quite a bunch of people. And so it's been really good.
I think as we grow too, if we can get these lots filled up, I think more opportunities are going to present themselves.
There's no doubt.
With, whether we, bring in new businesses or something, I think, as we grow, it's going to just increase our community coming together.
One other building that we haven't really talked much about, we talked a little bit, but the museum. So that's open during the summertime.
Correct. They have the same hour or same time frame as the Burgers in the Park. It's Memorial Day. They open on Memorial Day, and then they shut down Labor Day. There's multiple floors of history throughout there.
It's been a coffee shop.
Kathy James runs a coffee shop right outside. James Java Gang, is that right?
Yes.
James Gang Java.
There you go. Yeah, there we go. I can never remember what it is. And there's tons of history. Military rooms, parts. They have some of it set up as old schoolhouse. Farming and ranching is obviously a big connection to that. The other thing that they do is Halloween. They do a haunted house too. So if you're into that kind of thing, they do a haunted house there. And I'll tell you that building's old, and it's not like going into a Quonset where people have things set up. There's a real feel to that building this is an old building. It might actually be haunted. So
Yeah. No, and one of those rooms, it was families can sponsor a little. Can you talk about that, Jim?
Yeah. The museum started in 1969. And one of the rooms was the founding families of the area around have a box where they have some of their family history in that box. And it is very interesting to see the different, my family, of course, was Scandinavian, but we have Bohemian families, we have German families. There's just a lot of different ethnic groups within our community, and to see how different they went about things, it makes it really, really kind of unique.
Yeah. No, there's a taxidermied calf that's on the wall,
Yeah.
a 2-headed calf. That's bizarre to me.
That came out of our place.
I believe that is a Jacobson calf. Yep.
Yeah, and it did. We had a 2-year-old heifer was having trouble having a calf, and of course, what you do, you go in to help, and found 2 heads. So they got one of them cut off, got the calf out. There, of course, it was dead, but cow lived, so that was a plus.
No, to be
So
honest.
then they had a taxidermy. So
that is actually probably the most memorable thing to me from that museum. But then the second is those family boxes, because it's just really interesting to see what people wanted to preserve. I mean, if it was maybe something military, something family Bible, or different things that they wanted to have in that box. I think that's really cool.
I think that's another area that you could look at volunteering too and getting to know people is the Lewis and Clark Museum Board. It seems like I know they've tapped me to, hey, do you want to be on the board or do this? And I just, like you said, I got a bunch of things on my plate, but that's another place that, just walk in there and be like, hey, do you guys need help with anything? And they'll probably put you to work.
no, they will.
And I know throughout the summer they do some of those art classes where you come in and you can paint different things. So they do different activities at the museum as well.
They have vendor shows as well.
Yep.
That's another thing with Saturday's Burgers in the Park. There's usually a few vendors that'll set up and sell their produce or whatever knickknacks that they make at their home and come out and sell them on Saturday nights. So it's another reason to come down and see what you can collect.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, I think we're about ready to wrap up. Anything big that we've missed?
Oh, just thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Brag about our community.
No, thank you for doing what you're doing. This is, there's opportunities that have come to McKenzie County. I mean, but it takes work to seize these opportunities. I mean, and we can squander them. I mean, and it's easy to just sit back, especially maybe if we're already, we kind of have everything figured out a little bit for ourselves. But if we do get involved, like you do with football or the fire department or things like that, that is really what makes these communities work. And this small town feel at Alexander has, I think it is definitely alive and real, and it's definitely appealing to a lot of folks. Thank you guys for joining us. Appreciate it. Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, take care.